All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. We have no guests and visitors except for our speaker, but I'll tell you anyways. My name is Steve Farrelly. You've heard it 21 times now. I'm the club president, and I'd like to welcome you all to the 21st meeting of the 47th year of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. I'd also like to remind everyone that we're in Worthington, Ohio, and the city currently has a mask mandate in place. So I encourage everyone to please follow the mandate as closely as you can while you're not eating. Yes, and so today's invocation of Pledge of Allegiance will be offered by, I don't know, it was supposed to be Shirley, but I guess I'm unprepared.
What about Jerry? Yeah, Jerry, give us an invocation.
Jerry, can you help?
Maybe. If you bow your heads, please. For a supreme being, we recognize that we need help, as do others in our community and our world. We're here to serve. Use us as you would have us do for others. We thank you for this food. We thank you for our cities, for our leaderships, and we pray that some wisdom will be laid upon those who are trying to lead our nation. For this, we all say, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Nice touch, Jerry.
All right.
Dave's not here.
We don't have any visiting Rotarians or any guests. We're going to skip over here.
It's okay. Skip. Oh, there is one.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
I'm
go
so
ahead.
sorry. I didn't look at my dues. Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate you being here. The muscle for all the presidents. Good to see you. All right. Our program today will be introduced a little bit by Katie. But first we have a sergeant, Mr. Phil Giesler.
Okay, thank you very much. Heads off. I think today is an opportunity day for happy dollars, many happy dollars. And I will just defer and look for hands. And we'll start here in the room first. Mr. Johnson, sir.
Well, as you all know, last week I said it'd be in Florida history. Well,
yes.
I'm very happy my wife is alive. We checked into our hotel, went the elevator up. Outside the elevator, she fell flat on her face. Broke bones up in here, shook her teeth. I thought she was dead. And got 911, and we came back early, and Dr. Motes fixed her teeth up yesterday. So, but
Wow.
What?
It's just, they can't do anything. What caused the fall?
What caused
the fall? I thought she had a heart attack. But we spent a day and a half in the hospital.
For those that couldn't hear, Pat's okay now, thanks to
she said Bexley having lunch with her friends.
So she's okay.
Not to be stopped ever. Pat is now having lunch with her friends in Bexley.
That's right.
In spite of what she went through. And so we're very, very glad for that. You're still eating. And so I'm not going to pick on you, but I will pick on Dr. Hansen, only because he's sitting there without a plate. And so Dave Hansen, you get to seed the pot and take care of people in the room here. And I think Don Motley might be one that's ready to give some money to.
Yeah, I've got both a happy dollar and a sad dollar, kind of the same occasion. I have a friend from high school who died of cancer last year during COVID, and so the celebration of life had to be postponed until this year. It was held last Saturday up, but what had been her 68th birthday and was her father's 90th birthday. So It's a sad dollar because we lost someone that had been my friend for over 50 years. A happy dollar because I was able to celebrate with her husband, her family, and her friends that the exciting and wonderful life that she lived. So thank you.
Thank you, Don. There are terrible and wonderful things that happen in each person's life, I've been told. Dick.
Here's a happy dollar. We spent the past week in North Carolina. Planned Thanksgiving. We thought that was a great deal, and then we got word that David's father-in-law wasn't doing well. We were thinking we were going for a funeral, but we did not go for a funeral. We went for a happy Thanksgiving.
Wow. Yay.
That's the wonderful things. I will defer to the entire the southeast table,
Okay.
which is minus 3 or 4 people this week.
Right. Okay. We have, I have a happy dollar because Alan Grossman has an announcement.
And yes, Alan Grossman, by the way, since he's going to do it in Bitcoins, as I understand. But Dave, you don't have to go to him to collect. I think it'd be inappropriate and take you a little bit of time. But Alan, you're up to bat.
I am very happy today to announce the birth of my first grandchild yesterday. My daughter had a lovely little girl, and I am giving 100 happy dollars to our foundation in that honor. If anybody wants to see pictures, Peggy's got one.
Probably more than one. And where are you right now? What location?
Oh, I am sitting in Victor, New York, in my mother-in-law's kitchen. And Heather is actually here with me, making food for Nicole and Josh when they get home from the hospital.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. That's great. We'd rather be looking at you than Alan, but that's the way it is. Congratulations to all your family. And oh, there you go. Good. Thank you very much. Another happy dollar. Thanks, Alan.
Yes, as I said.
Oh, hello.
Going to Florida all next week. So
Okay, Joe.
Loving hands of Teresa.
Okay.
And we'll get you set up. We'll get John on.
I'll be back
for a second.
Don't worry.
So yes.
Phil,
Okay.
if Ken Carey was running this show, he would have us all put in $1 for that great game last night. But
Oh, against Duke.
you're running it, but I'll help you out.
I was waiting. I had a special one for Ken to stand up because I know that he was leading the charge onto the floor. I think I saw him standing among the rest of the 5'8" people, and there was this guy. I think it was Ken Carey on the floor. I'm not sure. It was 11:42 or something terribly late.
I was out the door at that time.
Ken was out the door. He already knew it was in the game, in the pocket. He saw it happening. And Ken, what was your, as a coach, what was your second? What was your halftime speech that you gave?
Make your damn free throws.
Thank you.
I coached freshmen all these years that didn't shoot that poorly. I hate to talk about the negative when they won the game, but kids on scholarship shouldn't miss that many free throws.
Free throws makes the game.
Among other lies I've told her over the years, shooting 25% was pretty good.
Okay, thanks to everybody.
Hey, Phil, I've got one.
Oh, okay. Wait a second. We got to collect money here. For those people who choose to do that and who are not Dukers, because I know you have your own thought, please throw in $1 for happiness for Ken Carey and for the rest of us who like to do that.
Hey, Phil, I've got one.
Yeah, okay, John's up with that.
I'm happy because when Dick Olilla announced that I wouldn't be able to deliver the poinsettias to the residents in the senior living facilities and needed some help, Dave Hansen stepped up and said he would take charge. So I'm happy that Dave did that, and he may need some help. So if somebody can help him, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. And thank you, Dave. And for the happy dollars, this is part of it here. And John, happy dollar tomorrow. as you go tease people in the medical surgical business, and get some of those extra little trinket good foods things that they give, so you can share with everybody here in a couple weeks. Right hip, left hip. Which one?
Right hip.
Right hip.
Yep.
Okay.
Hip
okay.
hip hooray.
Hip hip hooray. That's going to cost you $1 just because. Just that's much.
I'll add that to my joke list.
That's that shows you how bad that was. That's going to be on Jerry Katz's joke list. Somebody else had your hand up. I'm sorry. Didn't they? No, maybe not. Okay, fine. Having said that, have a good day, great day, and we're looking forward to the program.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. So announcements. I know Dick's got a lot of announcements. Go for it.
Well, today is the last day to turn in your orders for poinsettias. We are fast approaching the 500 mark. Last count, we were at 485, is that correct? 486. Now, for those members, the half of you who have not contributed a plant to the list, whether it's charity or for your own sake, I should tell you a little story about poinsettia sales. This is one of the fundraisers we started many years ago when we started as a club of about 35 members. After we'd been members about 2 or 3 years, our first major contribution to the community was giving a $500 scholarship to the Thomas Worthington High School and to the Dublin High School. We start off with $500 apiece. And soon after, we boosted it up to $1,000 for the high schools. And they kept adding high schools, and every time they added high schools, we added another $1,000 to the pot. So at one time, I know we were giving $5,000 to the high schools, plus an extra $1,000 for what we consider to be the best of the students of those who got scholarships. And one year, we even gave $10,000. So it's been a program that we're very proud of. We've done it for many years, and we will continue to do it. And if you will help us out by buying a plant, and if your cat or dog's going to eat it, well, make one for charity. So we can meet our goal of 500. We had a stretch goal of 600, and it surprised me. And let's see if we can get there tonight. I do have a couple other announcements. We will be unloading the truck next Tuesday, and I have not heard from Mike Moulton for the exact time the truck will arrive, but sometime after noon. So as I find out what the time is, I will contact those who have volunteered. And there's the old men crew that are going to work. That's Kip Patterson and John Jacob and me, all of 80 years plus. And then I have Jeff Apple, Dave Hansen, Jim Miller, and Mike Moulton on the list. And if you want to show up, I know somebody bought plants, and they said if you can deliver them on Tuesday, I got them, so they're here. And for those of you who ordered large quantities of plants, like 60 or 70, and you want to come down Tuesday and pick them all up, then that'd be great. We'd love to see you.
Dick, that was me. I'll be there.
Say that again.
That was me. I'll be there on Tuesday.
Okay, we'll see you there. And then on Wednesday, distribution day, I got George Norris and his Cody to work. He'll do noon till 2. Jim Allen said he'd be there from 10 to noon. Then I've got Dave Hansen, Jim Miller, and myself. So that's plenty of help. So looking forward to seeing you next Tuesday and Wednesday to deliver all the plants. Questions?
Well, I just passed out, it's not a question, I just passed out the form. If you want to buy any more and not put them online, you could use that form and put new at the top of the page. So you can do that right now, and I'll put it onto the form this afternoon. But otherwise, 5 o'clock is the deadline. So please, we needed about 16, I think, to just make our 500. So please do consider adding some, and you can also print "and" on the top, so that I know put it on.
At the current time, we've had about 70 plants for distribution to the various nursing homes. So Dave Hansen's going to need a little help getting out to different nursing homes. So if you can do that, see Dave, get your name on his list. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Jim Farmer?
First of all, I want to start with a question. What is the significance of February 5, 2022?
Super Bowling.
Super Bowling, that's right. Somebody knew. We're going to kick off our second, I want to say annual, but we didn't do it last year because of COVID, Super Bowling tournament. We changed it a little bit this year. We're going to de-emphasize the competitive bowlers. We're still offering $1,000 guaranteed money for them. It can go up depending on how many sign up. But we're emphasizing families a little bit more. We're going to have more activities for young kids under 12, bumper lanes for them to bowl on, plus some other activities that'll keep them busy. So it should be an easy sell, and we're also changing the way we raise money. We're trying to sell 30 lane sponsorships this year at $100 a piece. It should be an easy sell to anybody that you got a business relationship with, that you're on the board of, you're a volunteer to that organization. Try to get them to sign up and also bring a team if they can. I also think this is a great tool for recruiting. Everybody who went last time had a good time. I don't want to hear from anybody that they're too old. Last time, only 2 of us fell down while bowling. There's one right there.
I also won a prize, so thank you.
That's right, we reward anything at this event. So I sent an email around yesterday to everybody. You've got the information you need. Let's, in the next 2 to 4 weeks, really push these lane sponsorships. If we do this, we can double, if not triple, the amount of money we raised last time. And last time we raised just over $3,000. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Who's got this?
Oh yeah, everybody gets a free lunch at this. Free in the sense that it's incorporated in your ticket.
Fantastic. I think I'm going to get like 3 teams. Like it's going to be great.
Daryl has something.
Darnell, yes.
Or not Daryl.
And my announcement is just really quick. It's for the holiday delivery gifts. Yeah, we delivered the gifts from Kilbourne. Thomas.
It's all right. It's all right.
But Kilbourne High School, right? So and that's not this Saturday, but next Saturday that we'll do that. So we have sheets that went around. Hopefully everyone had the opportunity to look at it. And if you want to do a sign up, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't see that sheet.
Yeah, I should have added our main sponsors this year are Cam Taylor Realty once again. Let's hear from those guys. And
LCNB.
LCNB Bank contributed 500 each. So thanks to them as well.
Just wanted to thank everybody for bringing your gifts today, and also announce that you are so generous in donating money to the food for the families that we have enough possibly for next year as well. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So did we raise more money through that than what we would have done at the holiday party?
Yes.
Wow. Oh, that was easy. Speaking of the holiday party.
My turn.
Hey.
All right, so the holiday party is December 29th. It is at Mezzo in Dublin, and the price is $35 a person. So I will get a registration sheet up. If you don't like to use a registration sheet, you're more than welcome to just email me. I'm happy to do that. I need to get an understanding of the food, but we'll also have you guys check what food you would like, so we have that information ready for you. All right, that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you for all the work You're doing all that.
29th at 5? 29th, not at 5, 6. 6. Sorry, 6 p.m.
6 to 8?
Sure. 6 to when we close down Mezzo.
Question mark, yeah. So we burned down, I mean, closed down.
Closed down.
Yeah. All right. 125 Club. So there's always time to support Polio Plus. So I would encourage you to donate directly. At least $100 to the annual fund and $25 Polio Plus. And get your 125 Club pin. Or you can have Jennifer add it to your invoice. What else do we have? Is that it?
I think that's it.
Yeah, all right. Now it's time for our program.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to welcome, Sheila is actually on Zoom today. So she is from Dayton, Ohio. So she couldn't come all the way here, but no, kidding. She's been a licensed in Ohio since 1993 in real estate. Sheila Crane is a realtor and community development specialist with HER Realtors. Sheila has worked with various organizations providing housing for the most vulnerable. It was while working with Montgomery County PIC, Prostitution Intervention Collaborative, Sheila became aware of the horrors of human trafficking. Chairing Abolition Ohio Speakers Bureau at the University of Dayton, along with the Ohio Attorney General Anti-Human Trafficking Initiative, and oh boy, Sheila, Seroptimist. Thank you, International. It was while learning many adult sex workers were sexually victimized during childhood. Sheila advocates for over 1,000 American-born Ohio youth that are caught in the evil web of sexual servitude. These children are primarily runaway, throwaway, giveaway, and become homeless. Housing is the #1 need for victims, survivors of human trafficking. And with that, I introduce Sheila. Welcome.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie. And I wish I were there with you. Prior to COVID, I did do several human trafficking presentations in the Columbus area and several churches and with Ohio Realtors and what have you. So I'm really, really happy to be with you today. This to me is what I feel that God is calling me to do. This is what touches my heart, as I mentioned to you before. So as Katie mentioned to you, I'm with Abolition Ohio. We are one of 23 coalitions within the Ohio Attorney General's Anti-Human Trafficking Initiative. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. What happened was in 2012, I accidentally stumbled upon human trafficking while working with Montgomery County's PIC. I assumed that I was going to hear something going on in a third world country, and then to find out that this was happening right here in our backyards. And Ohio is leading the way in eradicating human trafficking in all its forms. As I mentioned to you before, I went back to Montgomery County's PIC, and I said to the executive director, Cheryl Oliver at the time, Cheryl, I have to advocate for these kids. And when she said to me, Sheila, most of these women were sexually victimized or trafficked as children, I knew that God had me on the right path. So here I am. So let me show you what that looks like a little bit. Katie's going to play a video for you, and this will really give you a foundation of what human trafficking is all about.
Hold on, Sheila, I'm getting there.
Better you than me.
Hey, where you headed? You ladies from around here?
Actually, I'm from Florida.
Florida?
Are we paying you to talk?
Why didn't that come up? All right. See, even I have technical difficulties. Better?
We're still getting used to this. This is our new normal.
Can you see, can everyone on YouTube see this? Not YouTube, Zoom?
Yes,
The lights were on. There is.
Okay, turn off the lights. Hold on. Thank you. Is that better?
Yeah.
All right, let's start over.
Yay.
Hey, where you headed? You ladies from around here?
Actually, I'm from Florida.
Florida?
Are we paying you to talk or to drive?
My bad.
Go get it.
Not her.
She's gonna make us some money.
Are you hungry? My man takes great care of us.
I said, where you been, not what do I think? Answer the question.
Sound 1 on November 4th, Saturday.
Oh, I think we
Without a...
Okay.
Then again, oh, work. Okay, now we can go on to slide 3.
Sure. If I can
Thank
get
you.
All right, we good?
Yes, absolutely. Great. Okay, that video to me really provides an overall view of what human trafficking is. And what's important for me to really explain to you right now, there's prostitution and then there's human trafficking. They're very different. But in both scenarios, most individuals go willingly. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. What human trafficking is simply force, fraud, or coercion. People can be beaten or chained. That's force. Individuals are told they must pay off a debt. In some cases, they can never pay it off, or they're threatened with threats to their family and friends. And you know, again, these are ways that traffickers control their victims. Trafficking victims do not need to be physically moved or brought in. This is happening right here in our own backyards, as I talked about a little bit earlier. We can go to the next slide, please. There are 3 basic forms of human trafficking we're going to talk about today. Primarily, we're focused on sex trafficking because that's more dominant here in the United States. According to the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000, adult sex trafficking obviously is harboring recruitment of individuals that are enforcing sex sex acts or labor or what have you through force, fraud, or coercion. Minor sex trafficking, why that's significant is separated. Minors cannot give consent. There is no such thing as a child prostitute, and we'll talk about that really in depth a little bit later. And then labor trafficking. Okay, next slide. What's significant about this is a $150 billion a year revenue industry. This is second only to illegal drugs. They say that if we don't eradicate human trafficking now, that eventually human trafficking will take over the drug trade. And the reason why is because you use a drug once, and a 12-year-old you can use over and over and over again. I do want to point out that on this slide, as you can see globally, it's a 62% forced labor, 38% sexual exploitation, and 10% state-imposed forced labor. You know, an example of forced labor could be Northern Korea. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. Human trafficking nationally here in this country, they're estimated 200,000 people are currently being trafficked right here in the United States. It's estimated that 100,000 of those are children under the age of consent. There's another 400,000 that are at risk. Now, these statistics, just like a study that we're going to talk about in a little bit, are pre-COVID. Well, actually, the study's coming up next, but what we're going to find out is that really these numbers have really increased since COVID. And for various reasons, and social media plays a big part in that. The average age of entry for a child into human trafficking is between the ages of 12 to 14 years of age. It tends to be younger for boys, but for minors in general is 12 to 14 years of age. Next slide, please. This is that study that I just mentioned, the estimating the prevalence of human trafficking in Ohio 2019. This was done by the University of Cincinnati. And as you can see, 57.6% of the majority of victims are primarily white. Sex trafficking is primarily an urban crime. And the majority of these victims obviously are female, but we don't want to forget about our young men. It is estimated that 1,032 identified victims right here in Ohio. Like I said before, another 4,000 are at risk. And these are very, very, very conservative estimates. Okay, the next slide, please. Why Ohio? Ohio is extremely, extremely vulnerable. Our vulnerabilities include, we have an extensive highway system. You can get anywhere to any metropolitan city within a matter of hours. We have the 5th largest number of strip clubs in the nation, most truck stops in the nation, and close proximity to Canada. Sharply rising immigrant population, unemployment still, poverty, and I added substance use. There have been situations right here in Ohio, and I'm sure you've heard of them, where parents are turning their kids over for that next fix or for financial reasons. And these kids they're being exploited by their own parents. Okay, the next slide. More than anything, a child cannot give consent. There is no such thing as a child prostitute. Next slide. And I want to just mention that if you have any questions or what have you, you have someone interrupt me or write them down, and we can really address those at the end. But again, I wanted to share with you, this presentation really, really focuses a lot on minors. And the reason for that, for those very reasons I just mentioned, a minor cannot give consent. And if we can do something about helping these kids, these are primarily runaway, throwaway, giveaway children, then the reality of it is we can really, really make a difference in cutting down not only human trafficking, but also helping these kids with their futures, to giving them hope in a future. As we said before, most victims go willingly, like you saw in the video. Again, these kids, they run away, they are approached. There are 3 out of 4 children, runaway children, that are approached by traffickers within 48 hours of running away. Most common form is grooming, where an older boyfriend will befriend somebody who they feel is vulnerable. And traffickers are experts in identifying vulnerable kids, vulnerable individuals, and they will take their time in grooming these individuals. We're going to talk about that next, but many victims do not think that they're victims. They think that they're surviving. And a lot of youth that are runaway, they do engage in commercial survival sex. Again, there's no such thing as a child prostitute, and a child, someone under the age of consent, cannot give consent. All right, so we'll go to the next, and we'll talk about Carrie. When the door shut, Carrie's life changed forever. The man who she thought was her boyfriend drove her far from home. He took her identity away by changing her name, instructing what clothes she could wear, when she could eat, and didn't permit her to contact her family. For the next 5 years, he prostituted Carrie to more than 100 men each month. Taken from state to state, there was no place for her to run, and she was without hope for rescue. She thought he loved her, but she hated the things he made her do. I'm sure many of you have heard of Teresa Flores. She lives in Columbus. As a matter of fact, she's a national speaker. From the ages of 15 to 17, Teresa was trafficked right out of her own home. Her father was an auto executive and living in the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, a upper class community where she met an older boy. Because her father traveled quite a bit, transferred quite a bit, she was didn't really know a lot of people. So she met an older boy, and he took his time in getting to know her. And at some point she felt comfortable enough when he asked if I could take you home. Well, on the way to her house, he said, well, let's stop by my house first. He gave her something to drink. When she woke up, she had been gang raped by several individuals, several men, and they took pictures of her, and they used those pictures to basically manipulate her for 2 years. The only way that Teresa was able to get out of this web was her father was transferred. And again, after this presentation, I really would like to know how many of you have heard Teresa talk or have been to her presentations. Okay, next slide, please. This is the sexual trafficking organizational structure. As you can see, the person on the top is the trafficker. The person on the bottom, or the second, is the bottom. And I won't use another word that they refer to the bottom as, but in that video that you watched, it was the lady that went to the young girl and asked if she was hungry, if she needed a place to stay, or offered her assistance. And this is very, very typical of how these kids that are runaway, throwaway, giveaway are recruited. And as you can see, there is a recruiter, a groomer, a watcher, the customer, John, and then the stable. The stable is the group of girls. And this could be from one to many, many individuals that are within an organization. This organizational structure can be, like I said, the reason that this is called a stable, it again is a dehumanizing label to put, because these individuals are treated like animals in many cases. But we'll go on to the next slide. All right, as you look at these pictures, and maybe some of you might want to think about, what do you see when you look at these pictures? I don't know if I'm going to hear feedback from you, or if anybody might want to tell me what do they see when you look at these pictures.
I heard someone say it's the same girl.
Absolutely. Sometimes it takes a moment for you to recognize this, but these are arrest photos over a little bit over a 1.5 year time period. And I think this started at the age of 14, and she was not quite 16 when the last picture was taken. So almost 2 years. And this is what human trafficking looks like. And again, do you remember when I told you that, human trafficking, at some time we consider this to be modern day slavery. And the difference is these individuals, they're expendable. If one becomes dope sick, like you can see in the bottom pictures, then you get rid of her. And the life expectancy is very, very short. There are medical conditions that these individuals have to deal with. But what happens is that individual can easily be replaced by someone else. And that's the difference.
I can't believe.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's Katie, Sheila. I can't believe that's only not quite 2 years from first picture to the last. That's what I was thinking, 5 years, not 2.
And that's a really, really good point. And that's why it's important to know that this is a less than 2 year time period. What happens is when I worked with adult women, Katie, they would tell you that they have to take substances to even deal with what they have to do. They have to escape their bodies. I've talked to women that have, their past, the life of human trafficking. They didn't know that it was human trafficking at the time, but they're out of that life. And they are still dealing with the ramifications of human trafficking. And most of them have some form of addiction or substance abuse issues. And that's why this is so important. Because in many cases, these individuals, they can be arrested. And then when they come out of the system, they have nowhere to go. So many of them go back to the environment that fostered the addiction, that created the trafficking and created their scenarios. So it could be a revolving door for many of them. And that's why we have to do something about it. Next slide, please. Missing children. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, there are reported that there are over 10,000 reports of possible sex trafficking of children right here in the United States. More than 1,000, as we talked about before, Ohio youth are estimated to be trafficked right now, and another 4,000 are at risk. 1 in 7 missing children are likely victims of child sex trafficking. The next slide is really, really important. Again, we mentioned Seroptimus International Dayton. Seroptimus International is an incredible organization of women that our mandate is to lift up the lives of women and girls, but I say women and children. And we have a missing children's program that we have really started expanding this program. It was in Montgomery County areas, but we've expanded to Indiana, to various parts of Ohio. And these posters are, we create these every 3 months, and these are missing children. They are found in very, 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 very quick procedures. They are just found. And how many of them are identified are through other youth. So we post these in restaurants, hotels, and areas where individuals might be able to recognize, especially the employees of those establishments, be able to recognize some of these missing children. And I think I put 2 posters up because, again, this is where my heart is really with the children. The next slide, thank you. See, again, another one. These children are most likely not running to something, they're running from. Okay, the next slide. Thank you. All right, I put this one up because the fact is more homeless kids equal more trafficking victims. I wanted you, again, to see the face of a young man so that we don't forget about our young men. Yes, human trafficking for all ages is overwhelmingly female, but we have young men that are caught up in this web. And I have had, since doing this work, I learned about human trafficking in 2012, like I said, when I was working with Montgomery County's PIC as a housing consultant. Since then, I have had so many men that are adults that have come to me and said, my life was hell growing up. And they have experience, but they keep it all in. They can't really feel comfortable really communicating to someone else that this is what they've gone through. Many of these individuals have experienced what's called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And those of you that are familiar with ACEs, you know that the high number of ACEs can also predetermine health conditions in individuals later in life. But it's, and then adverse childhood, in addition to adverse childhood experiences, trauma and the need for trauma-informed care. These individuals have gone through quite a lot of trauma. And again, what the last 2 years of COVID has done is only exacerbated the problems. So we'll take a look at the next slide, which is red flags. When you look at this, indicating some of the typical red flags of a person, they're not free to leave or come as he or she wishes. Once that trafficker has that individual in control, then they don't have the freedom to come and go as they please. It's under the age of 18 and is providing commercial sex acts. Again, a child cannot give consent. Is in a commercial sex industry and has a pimp or manager. That's not necessarily human trafficking. As we mentioned, there are many, many prostitutes that choose to do this type of work. But once you are forced or coerced or threatened to continue doing what you're doing, that turns into human trafficking. And that person is unpaid or paid very little, paid only through tips. And they work excessively long and unusual hours. Owes a large debt or increasing debt and unable to pay it off. Was recruited through false promises concerning the nature and conditions of his or her work. This happens a lot through social media. and especially with these young kids, because what have they been doing? They've been sitting in front of computers, and they will go to these sites, and many times they get engaged with someone and create these bonding relationships, and that person may not be who they presented themselves to be. Okay, the next slide. I think we have another on red flags. Yes, we do. Is living and working in a location with high security measures. You know, there are various industries where human trafficking can take place. And, you know, massage parlors, illicit massage parlors, we're seeing a lot of that now. And there is legislation that's being addressed to be able to address legitimate massage parlors and not ones that are being used as trafficking facilities. Okay. Okay, the next slide, please. So what do you, when you suspect human trafficking is taking place, you look for the red flags. You reach out to the victim and offer support only if it's safe. You know, in a lot of situations, you might see someone who is probably obviously being trafficked, but somebody's watching her. And here, this person, someone's watching this person. So it may not be safe for you to approach that person. And if you are in a work environment where you are a mandated reporter, inform your supervisor. In Montgomery County, we contact Montgomery County's Children's Services, 937-224-KIDS. If there's a human trafficking person, a point person, several years ago, just really about 2 or 3 years ago, some of us were trained through the Ohio Attorney General's Human Trafficking Commission at that time under DeWine to be, women that, what is it called? Cosmetology training. I'm sorry, I forgot the word cosmetology. And what we did was we trained trainers to teach cosmetology, human trafficking cosmetology 101, which is now mandated for certain professions. And cosmetology is one of them. Why? Is because a trafficker will take their property to have them groomed on a regular basis. And during this process, we did identify salons where they actually did have cases of human trafficking. So what we did was we helped them to create a protocol as to what they should do when someone walks in and this person is obviously being victimized and trafficked, okay? If that person or any individual is, if it's an emergency situation, you're obviously gonna call 911. But the National Human Trafficking Hotline is the number 888-3737-888. And it's written that way so you can remember. Because of our calls to the National Human Trafficking Polaris Hotline, Ohio is probably number.
Give us to him yesterday while I was there and I forgot.
What was that?
It's a yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I thought I had a question.
No, looks like somebody was unmuted.
Oh, that's okay. And look, we'll get back to that. But anyway, we're talking about the red flags and what have you. You know, it's really sometimes difficult to identify these victims, and especially human trafficking can happen right in an individual's home. So, and I think if you went down to slide, it was after protocol.
Do you see it?
Maybe the next one.
Okay. Okay, now you're back on track. That's it. Okay, maybe the next one after this, that's where we left off.
All right.
Okay. So what else can you do? You can educate yourself more. You can do what you're doing now and you know, spread the word. I mentioned before that with human trafficking, I really, really enjoy presenting to churches. you have a cross section of everyone that attends a church or a faith facility. And once you hear about this, you want to do something, especially when you help these kids. You know, I can't believe I haven't mentioned the foster kids that are transitioning out of the system. You know, they are extremely vulnerable and many of them become homeless. So really getting involved, that's the number one step. Before Kasich left office, he put into place what's called Ohio Bridges. And it's a program that provides housing to these individuals that are transitioning out of the foster care system, as long as they are in school, employed, or seeking employment from the ages of 18 to 21, 22 to 23 in some cases. The rents are paid directly to the property owner or landlord. So again, it's a wonderful program to really look into if you know anyone involved with helping youth that are transitioning out of the foster care system. Again, these are very, very vulnerable population for trafficking. Get involved, volunteer, start a book club. There's so many wonderful books that I can refer to you, recommend to you that deal with human trafficking. And, you know, obviously you're not going to support commercial sex, but, you know, if I were to tell you, or if you, and some of you already know a lot about human trafficking, but I have to present to you as basically a 101. And you will also know that a customer can be anyone. And we know that too, based on the news stories that we hear. But this is it's really, really a problem here in the United States that we need to really, really address and be very, very aggressive about it. And as far as labor trafficking, you know, think about some of the things that you purchase and buy fair trade. Okay, the next slide. As I mentioned to you before, Abolition Ohio is one of 23 coalitions within Ohio that we deal with, Ohio Anti-Human Trafficking coalitions. And we are under the umbrella of the Ohio Attorney General's Human Trafficking Initiative. I'm in Abolition, Ohio, which is yellow, and then you'll see with Central Ohio where you are. But you have so many resources there in Columbus. And, you know, like I said, it was just less than 2 years ago when we would attend the Ohio Attorney General's human trafficking meetings, and, you know, miss doing that, and we miss being together. But fortunately, we have virtual formats that can still keep us together to continue doing this work. Okay, the next slide. The Human Trafficking Task Force, this is the governor's office. And I did send to Katie the updates, which came out yesterday. And every month I send this to my database. It talks about the updates, things that have happened here in Ohio. And it will also give you information and links to activities that are going on throughout Ohio in the last couple of years. Again, many of them are virtual. So you'll be getting that. And then you'll find, I talked about illicit massage parlors. There's a study from Abolition, Ohio, and that's also in today's updates that you'll be receiving. So again, this is another avenue for those of you that are interested in getting involved, is to contact the Ohio Attorney General's Human Trafficking Initiative, and you know, also the Human Trafficking Task Force. There's so many different resources out there. You're fine. Okay, you can go on, because that next slide this is the Ohio Attorney General's Human Trafficking Initiative. Okay, next slide. So what do you see when you look at your fellow man? There are people that look at individuals and they see a profit. It's not about that individual. These traffickers could care less about these individuals. Trafficking, as I mentioned before, does not necessarily mean movement. A trafficker will sometimes relocate one of their property for two reasons. They don't want them to bond with each other, And in many cases, they don't want them to bond with the customers, to get used to certain customers, because there are certain scenarios where a customer has been the savior for that individual. We'll go on to the next slide. You know, I did not realize that this went by really fast. And I hope that I was able to convey to you, you know, what's really, really, really the essence of human trafficking, which is forced fraud or coercion, and how these individuals, they get caught up, and it's very, very difficult for them to leave or for them to escape. You know, what we do in Montgomery County is, you know, we are very, very aggressive here, but we're very aggressive throughout the state of Ohio. At one time, Toledo was considered #1 in the nation, but in a good way, because of the FBI's Innocence Lost program and law enforcement in general, their law enforcement efforts. Toledo was extremely successful and continues to be in eradicating human trafficking. There is the largest human trafficking conference in the world is held at the University of Toledo every single September, and it's run, this is the largest human trafficking conference in the world. So I would really like for you to be able to receive the updates every year, and then to find out what's going on right here in Ohio and throughout the country.
Thank you, Sheila. Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions for Sheila?
Are there any statistics on saved kids?
Are there any statistics on saved kids, Sheila?
Would you repeat that, please?
Are there any statistics on saved kids?
On saved kids? Yeah, there are. And if I can get that updated to you, I'm assuming that you'll be emailing out information. Yes. The number of saved kids, because what we do, we find because of our aggressiveness here in Ohio, majority of our kids are found. Majority of them are, but I'd like to get some numbers to you, okay?
I usually send out an email on Mondays, so get it to me by Sunday, and I'll get that into the recap that we do. Okay?
I sure will. Save children. Give you more reports. I've got quite a few reports. Like I told you, that's where my passion is with these children.
I have them. Any other questions? I think some resources for Franklin County, if you had any, would be really good to help us out.
Okay, Franklin County, absolutely. And I know that you are familiar with Judge Paul Herbert, who retired.
No.
Oh, no?
Of course. Some people are, yeah.
He spoke to our group before he retired. And,
did he really? He is an awesome human being. And if you remember, he created what's called Catch Court, changing actions to change habits. He retired to Florida, right? Mm-hmm. And but his program was so successful. And this is the type of program, not just with our court systems, but that needs to be implemented throughout our country for these individuals to be looked at not as perpetrators, but as victims. And so we have Judge Paul Herbert to thank for that.
So his program has continued after his departure from the bench?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm not sure who took it over. I could find that out for you, but Catch Court is the prototype for every judicial system that deals with this population. And we did create what we call a drug docket with our Judge Gregory Singer, and it was again modeled after Catch Court. You know, there's another YouTube video that is so wonderful that those of you that are not familiar with Paul Herbert, and Katie, I'll email that one to you as well, but it's not very long, but he talks about it from a standpoint of addressing this group of people. And he said that he looked around in his docket one day and he saw these women and he saw victims, you know, and he started really looking at these women and thought, how do we make them thrive again? And, you know, he changed so many lives. We've got so many resources in the Columbus area and Franklin County. So I'll be more than happy to get those to you because you're sitting on so much.
What really surprises me, Sheila, was earlier in one of your slides, you that the majority of the people were white women. I was kind of surprised at that.
You know, a lot of people are, and I think, you know, I'm going to tell you the way that a former prostitute explained it to me, and I'm just being real about it. She said that there are the ducks and there are the swans, and overwhelming majority of people that buy sex are men. In reality, you know, we have at Abolition Ohio a program that we call Traffic Talk. And I remember back in August, September time period, we talked about human trafficking and race and what have you. And the reality of it is there's still that stigma. You know, when like Paul Herbert, he didn't look at these women as prostitutes. He looked at them as victims, and to realize and to find out that they were trafficked, that they were being forced and coerced. But that's what happens in so many cases. What these traffickers will do, they won't approach the pretty girl because she has too much self-esteem. They won't approach the girl that's not so pretty because she won't believe them. But the girl that's right there in the middle, especially if she's walking around with her head down, those are the individuals that they approach. But to get back to the color thing, it's a matter of preference. When individuals are paying for rape, they have a certain, well, let's just say a certain choice. And that's one of the reasons why in human trafficking, majority of the victims happen to be white.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much, Sheila.
Thank you, Sheila.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you. I feel like I left a lot out, but you know, again, I'll get that information to you.
We really appreciate it. It's a very heavy topic, but you know, it's something that we can't lose sight of. So thank you very much for coming over the interwebs from Dayton to speak with us today.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
All right. Our speaker next week will be a surprise. How about that? So tune in to find out.
We have a name.
Do we have a name?
It was on the program.
I didn't want to say it yet.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a surprise.
It's a surprise.
Yeah. But before we wrap up, we have a raffle, right? 2 raffles. Oh, shoot. Yeah. Let's get the first one out of the way. Don, get up here. Ace of Spades from last week. I got them all shuffled. They're all
That's right.
ready to go.
We can do two Ace of Spades drawings in one week. Fun. Yeah. Unless I get it. Well, and then I hope you got it. And 3 of Spades.
3 of Spades. No good. All right, Mr. Rice.
It's $13. Last 3 digits, 925.
925.
925 for $13.
For $13. Oh.
Ace of Spades is $2.15. Last 3 digits, 918.
918.
Oh,
got it. It's been weeks. I appreciate it.
Well, see, he has advantage.
8 of diamonds. There's no advantage here.
No advantage.
All right. And before we wrap up, no, we're done with that. 4-way test.
Yes.
110. Keep going. All right. Of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill
and better friendships.
And four, will be beneficial
To all concerned.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. We are adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheila. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.